Hello, hello. All of you are welcome to the video lecture series in which today we discuss about the environmental science, that is the most important subject and relevance for the different aspects of human sustainability. Whatever the human sustainability itself depends on the major vital materials, and those are the air in which we get the oxygen, and oxygen is responsible for the respiratory system in different aspects of the respiration, the exhalation, the inhalation. So therefore we needs the oxygen. And how this oxygen is obtained, that is the well-known phenomena, and that is of the plants. The natural oxygen itself is obtained by the plants. So in case of the plant, the process of the food synthesis, and that is the photosynthesis. So in presence of sunlight, the carbon dioxide and water, whatever the CO2 and water itself combined with each other uh, in the process of the photosynthesis of plants. The plant cell having the specific organ, and that is the chloroplast. So in chloroplast, the process of the photosynthesis, the carbon dioxide, water and mineral, they form the respective carbohydrate, and during that particular formation oxygen is released. So therefore plant gives the natural oxygen. So oxygen itself is required by us, and that is the process, and that particular process is the respiration. What happens in respiration? For 1 minute we are taking 70 times the respiration, inhalation and then exhalation. So during the inhalation, oxygen itself is utilized by our the lungs, that is the respiratory system. The major organ of respiratory system is the lungs. So in lungs, there the blood itself is purified. So therefore, the oxygen is essential part of human sustainability. So without oxygen, we can't live. During the present situation of the pandemic situation, there was the shortage of oxygen, and that shortage uh, gives a catastrophe, a disaster in the whole of the India, as well as in the whole of the world. So pandemic situation because of the COVID-19, the coronavirus. So the- in that particular, that is the pneumatic, so that is disorder in the lungs. So certainly, therefore, such patients need more and more oxygen for the survival. So whatever oxygen itself is one of the component, one of the part of the environment. So we have to sustain that particular oxygen because that is present in the nature and in present in the air. So in air, along with oxygen, the major gas itself is the nitrogen. So nitrogen and oxygen form a combination and a definite composition of air. So 79% is the nitrogen and about 20% is the oxygen. So that particular oxygen we get from the environment. So definitely that we needs the plants, because plants have during the photosynthesis process, they give us the oxygen and consume the carbon dioxide. So that is the polluted gas, carbon dioxide, that is consumed, and carbon dioxide itself is exhaled from our body. So the two can be correlated. So therefore, plants are the essential part of the production of the oxygen. And without plant, that particular the oxygen itself is present. So here the natural resources in that particular part, the forest itself is also one of the natural resources. So what about the significance of forest? Forest having the so many number of plants, so many number of animals, so the wildlife itself is there in case of the forest itself were the number of plants available in a certain area. So that specify area containing number of animals, number of plants, and that is like a green belt of the earth. So that is present on the earth. In India, whatever that is about 22% of whole land is the forest area. Earlier, the area of forest in India was much more, but because of the technological innovations, because of the industrial revolution, then anthropological activities, then human population growth. So, human population growth, those needs to cut down the forest because of the needs. So, human needs are uh, because of those human needs. Earlier, the forests were cut down for the crops or whatever the food. So the agriculture produce. So that agriculture produce was increased then because of the cutting down of the forest. But the another way, whatever the climate control and then so that is because of the forest resources. So now we have already discussed in my earlier video lecture in which the environment definition was given. What is the meaning of the environment? Environment itself is the all around us, and the major components are the two. And what are those major components? The living organisms, individuals, which we are, the animals, livings, the plants, different types of plants, including the algae, the fungi, whatever the spores. So microorganisms, plants are there. Those are the spores, and those germinate or whatever their the germination optimum conditions. So therefore, in case of here, we have to see the different plants and animals which are the life. So living. But what the thing is the living. In case of the plants, that is the living cell, and that is the plant cell. Whereas in case of the animals, animals also varied from the microorganisms. What are those? The certain bacteria, the protozoans, whatever we have also the pandemic concern of the viruses. So viruses are also the part of that particular living or non-living part. So that is also because of here are also the structure is the microstructure. We can't see by naked eyes. So those are the microorganisms. So whatever the microorganism and very big animals such as the whale, mammal. One of the example of mammal is the whale. So those very big animals are there, including the whatever the elephants. Earlier, we back to the history of the earth, then dinosaurs were very big animals at that moment. But because of the natural devastation, natural process, they are buried. So whatever those the different living organisms on the planet or whatever the earth planet. So on earth, livings and non-living. So two components, major are the two one. The living, whatever I have discussed so many examples, and non-living, that is the material, whatever we have can see the sand, whatever the different minerals, whatever. So those are the part of the non-living, different compounds, different articles, different. So those are the example of the non-living. So component. So two component major the environment. So here the science itself is the systematic study of the environment. and environment itself is the all around us. Then the living component of the environment and the non-living. Now, one more classification of the environment and what are the types of components are also of the four one. Why? Because those we can say the origin. So origin, whatever the one thing from the atmosphere. So sphere, four spheres. Atmosphere that relates whatever surrounding of the earth. So that is the earth atmosphere. Whatever the 10-kilometer height is our the Mount Everest. So above that is also the part of the atmosphere. So definitely air related sphere itself is the whole of the sphere is the atmosphere. Then one more thing on the earth, so one more major component is also the hydrosphere, that is the called the water bodies. So different water bodies. What are those particular water bodies in this case? There are the seas, there are the oceans, whatever those may be, the different rivers, different bigger rivers, there were smaller rivers. So that is the part of the hydrosphere in India. Here we have the Indian Ocean, that is the Hind Mahasagar, that is the southern part of India. Below that, the sea load, the Sri Lanka. So whatever that particular part itself is the Indian Ocean, Hind Mahasagar. Then we have the other sea area, the Bay of Bengal, that is the Bengal Khadi. So that is also the part of the sea. So that is also the water body. So hydrosphere itself different seas, oceans, the rivers, the talabs, whatever other water bodies. So those water bodies are called the hydrosphere. So now more thing is there. So here underground water. So that is also part of the hydro, because hydro means the water, and water itself is one of the essential part of our body, because the more and more amount of water is present in our body, so that particular water itself is hydrate our body to keep the maintain the temperature of our body. So that is because of the water. So that is for the purpose of the hydration of our body. If suppose we have the different vital organs, and what are those vital organs? The kidney, the heart, all those are the whatever, all those are the organs, and those organs are the whatever vital organs. So in case of the heart, what about that? So blood is there. So certainly blood is present. So major part of the blood is the water. So with that is the medium how the blood in the arteries and in veins flow. So the flowing, the medium of blood major is whatever that may be the plasma, whatever that may be the definite different types of materials are present in case of the blood. So those are the blood part and relates with the heart. So heart definitely that must be hydrated with the water. So water and heart. So heart, that is the that is heart is because of the water by which the water is used by us for the drinking, whatever the other food resources we get also the water. So major is the whatever the drinking water. So drinking water that essential for us, because the certain toxic materials are also thrown out by our body. For example, in case of the whatever the kidney. So kidney, whatever when we are sleeping, and during that the toxic materials present in our body are released by the kidney, whatever that is the excretory system, and in that particular excretory system, so there the toxic materials which are generated from our body, And so therefore those toxic materials are excreted outside with the help of the specific organ, and that organ is the kidney. So with the help of the kidney, the water itself acts as a medium. So therefore water itself is essential part. So then kidney form the urine. So definitely the environment, the hydrosphere, and then we have the hydrosphere, but we have the organs. So organs are there. So definitely organs must be hydrated with the water, whatever water we are using. So that is our the human body's adaptation. Such type of water is present, and we are drinking that particular type of water. So let's we have the already discussed about the component of the environment in which we get the hydro part, water related sphere, the atmosphere, that is the air related, then the third one, lithosphere, and that is related with the land, and land itself is the part of the lithosphere. So this land having the major whatever those may be the number of minerals, including the radioactive material, including the hazardous material, radioactive materials, those are the part of the minerals. So here we have to come towards the what are the components. Then one last one, that is the biosphere. So atmosphere, one thing. The second, hydro water related sphere, hydrosphere. Third, the land related, that is the geology, that is the geography. So that is the part of the land. So land itself, that is also whatever, that is the lithosphere. So land related sphere itself is the lithosphere. So what happened in case of the lithosphere? 200 number of minerals are available on the earth, whatever those. There may be the aluminium, bauxite, there may be iron, hematite, whatever those. Even the coal and petroleum. So those are also the part of the litho, part of the earth. So in case of the petroleum, because that particular petroleum products come out, so that is also the part of this one. So now we have to come towards the natural resources. So those are included in these four components. What are the natural? For example, different plants, different animals, and then specify geographical phenomena. So that is the different continents having the specific natural products. So that is the part of the natural resources. In those, if suppose mountain area, here the hill area, here the Gangetic plain area, here the Maharashtra in case of that, that is the plateau. Even there may be also whatever those in the Bhuj and then Bengal, the part of the Gujarat. So there is the land itself, marshy land. So marshy land, whatever those, the combination of seawater and the sand. So that marshy land is also available. Then we have to desert. So in case of the desert, that particular specific land itself is the desert part. So whatever in India, where is the opportunity for us that we have a specific geographical structure of India where the northern part is the highest peak of the mountains, and those may be the whatever that may be Mount Everest. So in case of the Mount Everest, about 10 kilometer height above to the sea level. So that is very big height. So high mountains are there. So therefore, that particular, so what we have to see the different natural resources, and out of those, the forest is also one of the natural resources. So whatever in case of the forest, there may be the grow automation in the growing of the different plants, whatever the availability in concern is. If suppose the pesticides are more in case of the forest area, but whatever the role of how to set give the safety to the present plants and animals. So now I have this particular forest itself is green belt, and that also correlate with the whatever that particular we have the meteorological aspects. So weather phenomena, weather itself, whatever the summer, whatever the winter, whatever the rainy season, so those seasons, so these seasons are controlled by the available forest. How they control? We earlier discussed number of significance. In case of the significance, the most one is which one? The respiration. So therefore, oxygen itself we get from the forest. Whatever, if a major part of the forest is present, and then more will be the oxygen. So now green belt. This is like a green belt when we have to see the pic from the satellite. So there, now there is the condition, climate condition. The conditioning method, whatever this there may be the chances of the risk, whatever if suppose in case of the very hilly area, so there are the chances of the earthquake. So that particular earthquake related with the what we have. So that is the earthquake itself related with the activities of the earth. So therefore, in case of the forest fire, so how this forest fire occurs? So the wildlife fire. So whatever that is, the forest fire. So now we can see the climate conditioning itself is governed by the present situation of that country, of that area. So therefore, this is called the climate condition. So now we have to another slide, and this all of you are well known about the geographical distribution. Where is the north and which state of countries are there in the northern side, in the southern side, in the eastern side, in the western side. So, for example, in case of the western Rajasthan, that is related with the desert. So, that is the geographical distribution. And then we have the grassland plain area in the Uttarakhand, and in case of the whatever. So, those are pertain in the geographical distribution, even the coastal area. So, what about the coastal area where the sea and surrounding the population? So sea surrounds the population. So therefore, that one is the whatever. So here we can say, then we have the plain gangetic region, then the platelet counts. So this is also one of the major instrument required for the sustainability of human being. So now we can say one more thing is there, and desert, then coastal, then mangroves. Mangroves are present in a whatever that is the such mangroves are the plants and which are in the area of the marshy land, and such as the Gujarat where the surrounding to the coastal area, so that is the related with the coastal area. So coastal, then mangroves. Then we have the tropical region. So that is also we have the plus point in case of the tropical region. So therefore, all those are related with all those are related with the environmental conditions. So now one more thing is there, why this environment and natural resources, because we have number of natural resources and which are usable by us, whatever the food items, whatever the water purification items, whatever we have other the area. So here we can say the nursing um, whatever the exploitation of natural resources, why nature, natural resources are exploited. So in recent year, the depletion of natural resources have become a major focus of government and organizations such as the United Nations. United Nations controls all over whatever that particular concern of the all the continents, all of the countries, whatever those countries are controlled by a unique body, and that is the United Nations. So, in the time, United Nations uh, Agenda 21, the Section 2, which outlines the necessary steps to be taken for country to sustain the natural resources. Then depletion of natural resources is also considered to be a sustainable development inside. So therefore, whatever the term sustainable development has the many of the interpretation, but what we have to live. There will be the mortality rate must be down. So whatever because of human being, the natural resources. What are those natural resources? The energy, one thing. Then we have the land resources. Then we have the mineral resources, and then we have the soil resources, and then we have the biosphere resources. So number of resources, whatever the available, and we can discuss with the each other. So term sustainable development has many interpretation. Whatever when we are discussing about that particular presentation to uh, the different. So here, natural resources are exploited over. Now, how many we have to come back towards the nature. So nature, whatever we have already discussed about the definition of the water and definition of those particular, we get the different definitions, and in which the forest resources we have to take that in this particular presentation. So the natural resources, land, that is the soil, water, hydrosphere, energy resources, those how energy are produced. So that is the whatever high energy resources. Then the minerals available on the earth. So specific minerals is shut down. So that particular, so therefore that car remain as a optimized. So let's we have the land resources, the water resources, the energy. Energy itself is also one of the major part. Then we have the whatever then so concern of the hydrosphere. Here also the biosphere. So whatever we can say energy resources, that is also one of the important aspect. What about the energy? When we take the food or whatever we get that our requirement is there for the food. So food itself, how we say that that particular point, the food is essential. So therefore, in this particular case, what we have that particular natural resources and that that covers all those resources. So let's we have the related with the land that includes the soil. So land structure we can have Indian Space Research Organization even in the Suresh Canware University, one of the control of that is. So here the land, one thing, the water, energy itself natural in the form of the solar, then the wind energy. So those are the whatever the present in the nature. So now energy resources, the non-renewable and renewable. Then we have the Ministry of Resources, and then finally we get the forest resources. So let's we have to come towards the whatever the forest resources. Another way of the classification we have already discussed these particular the products, maybe the renewable, maybe whatever the non-renewable or whatever the continuous. So this is the, one of the another classification of the forest. Renew energy itself can be renew, and non-renew whatever that maybe go to the particular uh, things. So here renewable, non-renewable, and continuous. So let's we have the different types of forest. Here the bigger plants, whatever the very small plant, whatever the hilly area. So we can say, for example, this one This picture itself is concerned with the um Himalaya region. So northern part of the India, and the north, then we have to towards the Nepal, and then Nepal to Sikkim, then we have to go towards the Assams, the so where we have to reach, and then we get the some of the peaks. So here the peaks itself is very beautiful. So this particular land itself is of the blessed by the so blessings are there for this particular COVID. So here, whatever this particular area itself is the Himalayan forest. So there are some examples of the other forests also we have already discussed. Number of forests, number of so here the different forests, forest in India, Himalaya, then the Sundarban. So the second part is the Sundarban. So what about the Sundarban? Sundarban is also the particular whatever the area. So here, right side we can see, left side we have, and then the right side we can see, and that is the number two. So number two itself is related with the Sundarban. So whatever I have earlier discussed, the water and earth related materials. So now we have to another third one, and third one is the what we have Sudanshu. So here the third one, the CSIR forest area, this one. Then fourth part, that is the fourth part itself is also. So here we can say the one of the how the four different types of uh, sources. So what are the different types of forests are available in this picture? This picture also tells very specific gathering, specific large number of trees inside the whole forest area. So that is the significance. The whole forest area give us the specific characteristics because of the specific characteristics, and therefore the forest resources are also relevant um, with the human sustainability. Here, whatever if suppose losses of those particular forest areas, so definitely that particular amount will be reduced for the so we have to see the back of the picture where the large number of forests. So large number of forests are available. So here the forest resources are much relevant with the natural relief. So here, what is the major significance of the forest? And most one is the climatic concern. So let's we have the another pic, and this is the what a beautiful the forest area in the hilly area. In case of the hilly region, so therefore we can see the different types of the forest area, whatever those may be, the Himalayan region, then the South Indian region, then we have the another thing. So those are whatever we can say are present. So, so let's we have to see the different forest area, whatever those particular forests. So these pictures exhibits the whole of the forest area. So different types of forest are available. Whatever those may be also the wildlife sanctuary. But because of the industrial revolution, then because of the water related paper, so therefore this particular is that okay. So now we can say another slide, and what we have, this is already discussed, forest resources already discussed. Now one more thing is there, how plants survive. Anyone have the answer for that? How very small animals survive on the earth, and why those particular are the present. So here forest ecosystem, whatever the forest ecosystem, and that particular the whole of the ecosystem And so here the three components of the forest ecosystem. One is the producers, whatever I have earlier discussed about the producers, and that the they get the message from the different plants, and then find out. So therefore the producers are the very at the first stage where the plants itself produce their own feed, autotroph. So let's we have the consumers. Then in case of the consumers, number of consumed items from the forest area. So therefore the forest become the cut down to that particular area. So now producer, consumers, and then finally we get the. So here the three different component of the ecosystem of forest. The land that is related with the producer, then we have the consumer, and then lastly we have the decomposers. So decomposers role is also important, relevant. For example, in case of the ant, so what happened in case of the ant? So therefore, that consume whatever the big amount, and that is the scavenger of that particular area, because the ants came to that the cleaner. Ants as a animal, these ants are the cleaner of anything, whatever the disintegration of those particular, and these simpler compounds are obtained when we have the that particular system. So now we have the questions, whatever those particular questions are relevant with the different environmental part. Here we can see how the forests are related with the air pollution. So in case of the forest, so what are the air pollutants present is not a gaseous air part. Whatever the ozone, then ozone itself is the gaseous, the lead. So lead, how we get the lead? In case of the forest, so different, whatever the lead itself, this can obtain from the combustion of the petrol. Why? That particular petrol contains the lead compounds. So therefore, in area of the heavy traffic, whatever all of you know about that, different sanctuaries of the forest area, where anyone can go inside the that particular. So therefore they need acceptance for that. So here the correct answer is the lead, because in that particular area, if petrol vehicle, whatever the diesel vehicles, so diesel have the more complicated, then we have the petrol. So but in case of the petrol, the lead itself is added. Why this particular lead is added? If suppose I say so, because very small amount of lead compounds are added into the petrol, because they act as a anti-knocking agent. So because of that particular anti-knocking agent, so we have definitely to lead are under combustion, and those go to the road, those go to the along with the vehicle. So where the four wheeler, where the five wheeler, those go from one place to another place, that is the okay. But what about the surrounding? So here which of the following is not a gaseous air? So here the correct answer itself is the lead, and lead itself is now the another question. Identify the degradable pollution from the following in forest: chemicals, metals, discarded leaves, then the plastic. So here the explanation: discarded leaves are degradable pollutants since they are organic, and they can be rapidly broken down by microorganisms through natural process. The chemical metals, whatever I have discussed, the different of the chemicals and metals and plastics are the inorganic, and they will slowly degrade, thereby remaining in an unchanged form. So that is the degradation part is also concerned with the forest resources. How whatever the leaves, whatever the twigs and those dead part of the plants undergo the process of the. So therefore, these are also the example of how we can say that these are also important, and because the process of the easily degradable in the forest resources, then easily that particular degradable material itself is utilized, and so therefore the correct answer is the discarded leaves. Now the another the question from the following, which is example of the producer. What about the meaning of the producer? If suppose the film producer, so whatever the industrial products, industry produce different items, whatever those are the product. But here, who is the producer in the forest ecosystem? What happened? The forest ecosystem, the whole of sustainable in that particular area, they sustain the plants, they sustain the animals, they sustain the wildlife area. So whole wildlife area is controlled by the nature. So therefore, here we can say the which is the example of the producer. So definitely here the plants are the example of the producer. Why plants are essential? So the correct answer is the plants. Now another question you can say, and this is the component of terrestrial ecosystem. Whatever the meaning of the terrestrial ecosystem and the forest ecosystem. However, that is related with the forest ecosystem itself is related with the part of the terrestrial. So, in this particular case of the terrestrial ecosystem, there is also the producer, there is the consumers, there is also the decomposers. Whatever I have discussed about the decomposers, various part of the example is the scavengers by the ants. So what about the role of the scavenger, the ant itself? This decompose whatever the material is present. So this clean, this is the whatever the role of ant itself, that can clean the area. How? That particular the dead part, that is the dead part of plants and animals. So that undergo the process of the degradation. So here the three, the production, then the consumption, the product is consumed, and then the degradation into the simpler form. So that is the process. So what we have, starting the production, the another, the consumption, and then decomposure. So the role of decomposer is important. So that become the cycle. So, because of that particular cycle, the simpler compounds came into the cycle, and then we needs then that particular cycle. So, in this is the degradation part is one of the important on the on Earth planet, because the biodegradable one thing, that particular material is under degradation by the bios. So with the certain bacteria, certain microorganisms, and even the ants, those break down that degradation, whatever the paper. If suppose we have the paper, so that undergo the process of the degradation. But when this paper is compared with the polythene. So polythene is not a uh, biodegradable, even if that is not under the degradation. Polythene, whatever the polythene itself is the polymer, and that is the artificial material. So why artificial? Because the polythene is manufactured, is prepared in the laboratory, in the chemical laboratory, that particular the aspect how we get the different polymers. And those polymers, the polythene is one of the part, whether the polyvinyl chloride, that's also the part. So here the correct answer, whatever the terrestrial I have relates with that, because the forest then nearby is the, but the whatever the different plants, and that is also they have also the ecosystem apart from. Now, one more carbon monoxide. This one is most important concern in the forest resource. Carbon oxide. Whatever that we have, what we have, the carbon dioxide, it is the consumed by the plants, and the production occurs, then food is produced. But whatever, when, because the bigger area of the forest, then every year, whatever, or maybe the whole year, there is the forest fire. So why forest fire occurs? That is the forest fire. This is because of whatever the activities, the natural activities, the high plants are there. So what happen? Their friction when the moving of bigger the whatever then wind action of those plants in bigger plants, whatever there may be the up to 400 feet, whatever the bamboo, whatever the devda, so cell, so SL. So those are the different very big plants are present in the forest, and definitely during the wind action of the nature. So therefore, the two or more plants at the height, they get the friction, and by the friction of those hard stems of those very big plants, then the whatever the fire will be, the fire will be there. So what happened? So dried leaves undergo the fire. So whole area is converted into the forest fire, and that is one of the disaster. So during that particular, the carbon oxides are formed. But because in case of the fire, incomplete combustion occurs, so instead of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide is also formed. So whatever the question is there, carbon monoxide has a high affinity for hemoglobin. Whatever there is the, so carbon monoxide itself is the toxic, itself is the poison. But what happened? This carbon monoxide, when we have, so that particular carbon monoxide itself is that can be, so it is affinity, and this definitely, this is one of the poisonous. So later we have to come towards the another question. So identify the correct method by which carbon dioxide is produced. Here the volcanic eruption, that is also one of the concern of the volcano. And here, when the pH of rainwater is above 5.6, that is called acid. That is also correlate with the forest ecosystem. Whatever, because of those particular combustion of during the forest fire, so different pollutants, air pollutants are released into that particular. So let's we have any of the question, then all of you are welcome to ask me the question, because the Suresh Ganviar University is one of the international university where the resources, where human resources are much more. Okay.